Hello, this is the TradeSite U.S. Stocks and Futures Market Preview for the week beginning Monday, the 24th of July, and ending Friday, the 28th of July, 2017, as we try to wrap up what is generally the slowest summer month as far as I'm concerned, which is July. I know a lot of people take August vacations, but I tend to find August to be a little more interesting than July. You got the 4th of July holiday that kills that first week, and the options expiration in July is miserable, as we just saw this last week. We'll talk about that in a minute. So it really is not usually an exciting month, and I think sometimes August has a little more potential as you start to head into some of the government funding for the prior or the next fiscal year and some of those things that can move the market. So we'll see what we get next week, but hopefully it'll be a little more interesting than this last week. Here's a look at the ES front month futures contract. This is the daily chart of the broad market and futures form. And we are currently 10 candles up towards a 13 sell signal on the seeker, although we are also getting closer to forming because we have an 8 here. It's probably going to give us a recycle. One more day up and we'll get a 9, a new 9-bar startup. That'll erase the seeker count if that happens. All right, let's go through the major indices and talk about what happened this last week. Then we'll look at the data coming forward and go from there. As crude oil dropped $1.15 on Friday, closing at 45.77, back down. Gold up $8.30 to 1253.80. Now the S&P cash index, we talked about how Friday was going to be dead because, well, it's a Friday in July and an expiration Friday. And guess what? S&P closed down less than a point, down 0.91. By the way, 3 or 4 days this week it was down or up less than a point. So that tells you how July works. Here's a look at the NDX, the NASDAQ 100. This was up 0.3. So when we talk about options expiration being a day where the markets aren't going to do anything, that's pretty much it. Stocks down 9 on the session, not near new highs yet. Biotech's up 18, making new highs. Remember, we talked about this. Long base breakout, ran up, pulled back to consolidate and retest the breakout almost. And I said about, I think it was two weekends ago, I said if it's going to turn up, it's going to have to start to do it. It did it in the form of some gaps, but now it's getting a little more consistent. We'll see if the biotechs can carry the market. Here is the most disturbing part of everything. The VIX just closed at 9.36. This is the Volatility Index. This is the lowest close I remember. I mean, maybe it got there back in 2003, but I mean, this is just horrible. Okay, and I know it's summer and everything, but this is still, nobody wants to see this. We need the VIX back up in the 14, 15 range at least. This is going to be devastating for volatility in the market. And you know, I mean, like I said, August can lead to a lot of things because you're starting to talk about the next federal budget and all that stuff. But man, this is just horrible. TRIN 1.47, that puts the 10-day moving average at 1.04, so there's no signal there. This is disturbing. NASDAQ volume on Friday, 1.8 billion shares. That's actually a little bit less than Wednesday or Thursday, although better than Tuesday and Monday. But the thing you have to remember is this was options expiration. There's supposed to be a bunch of extra volume, and I warned everybody, maybe there wasn't that many open option positions out there for July. It's not a triple expiration, so maybe there wouldn't be much for an unravel and much to do on a volume basis. I mean, for the volume to be less on an option expiration Friday than any other day of that week is very unusual. So that was disappointing, but that's just the state of where we're at. Advanced decline ratio on the NASDAQ, negative 391 on Friday, negative 74 on the New York, so just slightly negative on both sides. Google gains $1.65 because why not? But Apple gives back 7 cents. Apple loses $3.03. I'm sorry, Amazon loses $3.03 while Netflix gains $4.94. So those two probably wash in the greater NDX numbers. Tesla down $1.50. So you know that's why the NDX closes up only 0.3 for the day. The TLT, the 20-year bond ETF, up 53 cents. Goldman Sachs down $2.12. All right, let's take a look at the intra week action. This is going to be 5-minute candles. Nope, we're going to go to 10-minute candles so we can see the whole week. And look at this. So Monday, you opened flat, traded flat, closed flat. This was a day where we were literally up or down less than a point, I believe. Tuesday, we gapped down. We spent the whole day trying to recover a 5-point gap and got there. Again, up, I think, a point on the session. Wednesday is the one day of the week. This is the options unraveling moves to the extent that we had one. We talked about that going in. Gapped up, and the unravel was to the upside. Thursday, gap up a little, fill the gap, try to go higher. Can't really do it. Slip at the close, literally up like a point for the close. And then Friday, like I said, the gap down. Took all day to fill the 5-point gap again, and that left us down less than a point. So 4 days out of 5 up or down less than a point on the session, and only Wednesday for the options unraveling move. That's really, really, really amazing. All right, let's take a look at the economic data coming out this week. Monday, existing home sales, not a big deal. That's 30 minutes in. Tuesday, we've got the S&P Case-Shiller Home Price Index and the FHFA Housing Price Index at 9 a.m. Eastern, and then consumer confidence 30 minutes into the market. But that's also the start of a two-day Fed meeting, which is on Wednesday, the announcement. So we've got the MBA Mortgage Applications Index at 7 a.m. Wednesday, new home sales 30 minutes in, crude oil inventories an hour in, and then the Fed rate announcement at 2 p.m. Eastern time on Wednesday. That could keep the market slightly contained. Thursday, we've got the durable goods and orders at 8:30, initial and continuing jobless claims, the international trade in goods, and then an hour into the market, natty gas inventories. That's the weekly number. On Friday, here's the big one. We got the employment cost index, but we've also got the first look at GDP for the second quarter. That's the advanced number. This is a big one. It can cause a gap Friday, and the Michigan sentiment number 30 minutes in. The other thing that you have to remember about this week, a couple things to really keep in mind. It is still July. I know it should be better than last week because that was options expiration, but you never know. There's going to be a lot of hurry up and waiting for the Fed. There's going to be hurry up and wait for the GDP number. But this is the big week. This is the second half of the core 10 days of earnings. So more stocks are going to release earnings Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday than any other 3-day period in the earnings cycle. So there's a lot of gaps. So again, you want to watch these stocks. It's going to be gap on the open based on whoever released last night and before the open, and then you're going to trade all day, and then late in the day there'll be stocks moving on rumors because they're reporting after the bell, and then they release. That's what it looks like. Remember, we always have to be a little aware of the core 10 days of earnings. This is the back end of that, and this is the busy end of that. In addition, we're heading into the end of the month. So not this Friday, but the Monday after is the last day of July when the statements print. Not that July statements are all that important. It's not like the end of June, but you just have to be aware of it. All right, that's it. We'll just see what we get. I really have no idea. I mean, it could be the most boring week again ever. We had some good stuff this last week, but you had to be just selective, picky, wait for the good stuff and take it. Or maybe, something will happen. Maybe all this, maybe the GDP and the Fed and everything else will get things moving. It is hard to say. You don't ever expect things in July, but I do tend to expect things out of August. So I'm a little more excited about what happens after this. Maybe not that Monday when we print the statements, but after that. Charts, as usual, brought to you by eSignal. If you've not yet taken a trial of our services, feel free to do so. We will help you out for a couple weeks. Have a great trading week.